When it comes to achieving an optimal diet, many people don't have a choice but to eat the bad foods. While in some people's situations, there is the ability to make better choices with the resources that they have. Some people, they don't have the resources to be able to actually eat healthy food. If you don't have an oven, a stove, like a sink, if you don't have the equipment, the utilities, the utensils, the knives, the forks, the chopping boards, this, that, the other, if you don't have the bowls, the plates, the cups, all that stuff that you would find in a generic Western kitchen perhaps, it's hard for someone who doesn't have that privilege to achieve a good diet, because while many whole foods can be eaten as they are, it's very hard for them to be digested as they are. And while I'm going to define foods into 3 different categories: whole foods, processed foods, and ultra-processed foods. Processed foods would be something as simple as butter. Butter is a very nutritious thing, but it's been processed because it's gone through some kind of machinery. Butter's been around for not millions or billions, but quite a long time. The processing techniques that is used to achieve butter is very simple and not very damaging to its nutritional value. When you ultra process any kind of food, it just takes out the nutritional value. When you obtain cheese, which is also a processed food, but it's still a very nutritious thing, when you ultra process it, turn it into McDonald's plastic cheese, then it's not very nutritious whatsoever. But many people, they can't obtain cheese, they can't do much with cheese unless they're going to eat a block of cheese, which isn't something that many people are going to do. While it's possible, many people will resort to the McDonald's burger, which they don't have to prepare themselves. All the preparation is done for them. If they don't have the means to have a proper kitchen to actually buy this sort of stuff, these plates, the utensils, this equipment, if they only have a microwave, if they don't have an oven or a stove, they can't make much with that. So they have to get the takeout, they have to get that food, they have to have that convenience, they have to have the food prepared for them. But that's often done in a very unhealthy manner, because the people that make that food, the people that make up those recipes, they're not doing it for them. They may not buy that stuff regularly. They're doing it for the profit. They're doing it so that people buy it. So while humans will make good decisions for themselves, humans are very self-interested. They'll make good decisions for themselves, but they're not necessarily going to have the same kind of rational behavior that would occur when they're facing making decisions for other people. So they won't make their food that they're going to tell their employees to make as healthy as possible, because they don't have much of a care, as much. They will have still a little bit of empathy, but they won't have as much for care as they do to themselves. And so it begs the question of, for some people, for some individuals, is what they need personal responsibility to help change their life, or is what they need a level of social justice? Because personal responsibility, willpower, what I honestly think willpower does have its place in the world of making your health better. If you imagine a Diet Coke, right? You could just not buy a Diet Coke. It doesn't contribute calorifically, so that means it doesn't even contribute to how much energy you're getting, how much you're able to build muscle and move and contract, because if it doesn't contain anything calorific, it's not making acetyl-CoA, it's not making ATP, and therefore it's not going to help you when you want to move your muscles. Doesn't contribute calorifically, doesn't have any real food in it. If you took all the non-calorific chemicals out of an apple, the flavonoids, the phytonutrients, the vitamins and the minerals, if you took out all of that stuff of the apple, it wouldn't really act the same, because that stuff needs macronutrients. They intertwine, they work with each other. It needs to happen inside of whole foods. So a Diet Coke, for instance, you'd be better off just having a Coke because it contains a bit of sugar, which isn't necessarily great for you if you're gonna currently do that on the regular, because that's going to contribute to a load of other things that's not very good for you. But it'd be better for you because it still contributes to some form of energy, which something like a Diet Coke doesn't. And I'm not saying that you should just buy a Coke instead, because that's not what I want to give you, because a Coke isn't going to contribute to your existence much either. But an interesting thing is that if you just have the willpower to avoid the Diet Coke, that's going to do you a lot of good, because it doesn't even contribute to any part of your existence. It's not going to fill you up, it's not going to contribute to your energy, so there's no point in buying it. You would feel exactly the same, be just as full, you'd have exactly the same amount of energy if you were eating the other bit of the takeout than if you just gave up the Diet Coke. That's an example where willpower can be used if you just say no to the Coke Zero, the Diet Coke. But if you do want to just get the Coke instead and get a little bit of energy, I suppose it's the next best alternative. For a lot of people, I'd say the solution, the beginning at least, is damage limitation. A phrase that I've learned from many years of watching racing in F1, damage limitation, where you limit the damage, essentially. You don't just like do stupid things because you're already screwed. You just limit the damage and help yourself out, because that may lead to good things in the future. Not getting the Diet Coke is damage limitation. And while I feel like there is a level of social justice, there is a conversation that should happen with regards to ultra-processed foods. But yeah, I'm really not here to educate anyone on their financial decisions with regards to their buying, what they're eating on a daily basis. With regards to money, that's not really my place to talk on this topic, but I do think that willpower does have a place. Diet Coke is probably the one massive example I could think of, but there are things that, while they contribute calorifically, they contribute to a level of energy. People don't even exercise. The majority of people don't even exercise, so there's also no point in getting that, because they contain no real food. They don't fill you up at all. They don't contain the phytochemicals, the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, so they don't actually satiate you. They don't fill you up, but you're not even active, so you're not actually going to utilize the calories that bit of food just gave someone. For instance, if someone's going to have a bag of crisps and then just do nothing, that's not going to help them that much. If they didn't exercise throughout the entire day, it can be beneficial if you have exercised at some point in the day to somewhat of an extent. But if you were sedentary throughout the entire day, not doing any vigorous work that actually gets your heart rate up to a certain amount, depending on your age, etc., and stuff like that. If you are sedentary throughout the entire day and you eat something that's got no nutrients in it but is calorific, it becomes a hindrance to you rather than something that's helpful. So at least start to exercise, and you can do exercise without having a lot of money. Push-ups, you need a ground, you need a floor to sort of base yourself on. And if you can do a few squats, if you can just get your heart rate up, do some cardio, you limit the damage. Because I think that upon reflection, that is the most important thing. That's the best way to possibly start your journey of self-improvement, is to limit the damage. And people will notice, people around you will notice that you are trying your goddamn hardest, and they will help you out. Humans aren't all the most psychopathic, apathetic people that exist on the planet. If someone observes you, if someone that you used to know, someone that you currently know observes you trying your absolute hardest, they will admire that. They will maybe do the same thing as you if they're in a similar situation. They will try to help you out if they're in a better situation. At least I think that's how humans work. People may be the biggest psychopaths and apaths that could possibly exist on any kind of world, but I really hope that's not the case. But there will at least be someone out there that will notice your hard work and will help you out, potentially. So I don't think we should all just straight up rely on social justice. Something definitely does need to be done about the availability of whole foods, and the opposite end of the spectrum on the availability of ultra-processed foods. Something definitely does need to be done about that on a global and national scale. But having some sense of personal responsibility will also make you feel a lot happier. If you feel that the only way to improve yourself is that the government can change some laws, can change the supplies of some products, the subsidies, the taxes. If you do that, you do make yourself sadder, because you're not in control. Control is a basic human desire. Everyone wants control. Honestly, I want control. Humans are natural control freaks, it seems. Having some level of safety and security is a basic core human necessity. And having that level of personal responsibility gives yourself that control. So while some people will say that social justice is what's needed, is the solution, while that may be factually, objectively correct, having some personal responsibility inside of your life, inside of your own journey of your quest of self-improvement, having a level of personal responsibility instead of putting it all down to people that don't personally know you, I feel like that will just make you happier, because you are against the odds trying to do something to improve yourself, make yourself a better person, And if you have that level of personal, it seems so wholesome in a way. If you, against all the odds, you have a level of willpower, of personal responsibility to try to help yourself, people will notice. And then maybe the social justice will come because people are observing that these people are actually trying. And while there are some people in the most desperate of situations out there where the damage limitation cannot even occur because they are so desperately sort of helpless. And of course, I understand that there is a place for social justice, but no matter who you are, having a level of personal responsibility will make you happier if you succeed. If you don't succeed, then that's a bit of a different issue that I've not actually thought about too much. But if you think on the fact that all the odds are against me, if I fail, there's not going to be too much of an issue with that because I tried my goddamn hardest, and that's really all I can give to this world. Because yes, social justice definitely has a place, but so does personal responsibility, because it will make you happier. It will lift your self-esteem up so high, because even if you make the smidgenest of changes to your daily routine, to your life, that will benefit your health in the long term, you will gain that self-esteem when you see those results start to come in. And then it will just like snowball into potentially changing your life in such a obscenely good way. So while I really don't like the arguments where it says that personal responsibility is just completely nullified, because honestly, for some people, I genuinely think it is, because they are in such a desperate and helpless situation that they just need that level of justice to be able to sort of have what is able to give them a nourished life. But for a lot of people, they do victimize themselves in some stretch of the imagination. And I do think that having a level of personal responsibility in some people will just help you so much. So please, take this with a pinch of salt if you want to, but do, please, even if it's just a year down the line, come back to this video and realise that maybe there is something that you and you alone can do. Go on do 10 push-ups every morning. Instead of buying your normal can of Coke, buy a can of Coke's right, they cost around 90p-ish. At least that's what they cost in the local shops where I come from in the UK. Instead of buying some Coke for your just lunch, get an apple instead. That will nourish you so much more. It will be so much more whole and good for you. It may not taste as nice. It may not be as like processed. It may not like give you that dopamine spike, but it's damage limitation. You don't have to have the perfect diet if you are in that kind of situation. But if you can limit the damage and you have that person, if you say to yourself, I'm going to get that apple today, I'm not going to get that can of Coke, you give yourself that personal responsibility. If you are able to do that in that situation, that will boost your self-esteem up. I think there is a place for willpower and for personal responsibility. I don't think that we just have to rely on social justice, because that will never be the answer, because that will also make you sadder because you're not in control. If you just try to, I'm waffling and I'm saying the same thing, but I cannot stress it enough. While if humans had the world as their oyster and they were given the option to pick everything they could possibly choose out of processed and out of whole foods like an apple and a can of Coke, if money was out of the equation, they would definitely choose the stuff that was good for them. So while money definitely does have an impact on this kind of stuff, I cannot stress it enough to just try limit the damage if this stuff is putting on you, because and if you give yourself just a smidgen of personal responsibility, accountability, you will also make yourself happier if you just get these little wins every single day. So sorry if I've waffled a bit too much, but I can't stress this point enough. And if you think that there is something that I should talk about more, then please do mention it in the comments. But if you have watched to the end, thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. I also recommend subscribing, because I love this community of young, troubled people who are willing to improve themselves so much more than they already have. And good luck.